Hi, I'm Rich Landis, President and CEO of Landis and Associates. We're just putting this quick video together just to inform you of some of the highlights of the tax provisions that came out in the Consolidated Appropriations Act. CARES 2, Stimulus 2, goes by quite a few names. So along with me today, we got Jake Martin and we have Ludmila Samova. So welcome, thanks for helping me out today. So I think Jake, let's start out here. I know the PPP has always gotten I guess I should say PPP. Maybe we should start out. What does PPP stand for?
Yeah, so PPP stands for Payroll Protection Program, and it's a loan. Initially, it was a loan program to help small businesses cover payroll, but then there was a forgiveness process to that. So you apply, you receive the loan, and then there's a forgiveness process to get that forgiven.
So this is round two. Now round two, obviously we had round one. I guess round one officially started. When was that? Back March 27th, I think, is when that first came out. So now we have round two, effective December 27th. It's my understanding that it's a lot tougher to be eligible to obtain this loan. Okay, so can you highlight some of these requirements that people have to be concerned about?
Sure. Yeah, it's a little bit more restrictive, but the rules are pretty simple. And a lot of small businesses will still qualify. You have to be under 300 employees, so very small businesses. You must have a change.
That was a change from the first one. First one was
correct.
500. Okay, so they knocked that down some. Okay.
You have to have received the first round. So if you haven't received the first round, you may be able to go back and do that at this time. And also your sales have to have decreased by 25% in any quarter in 2020 compared to that same quarter in 2019.
Give us an example there.
Okay, so fourth quarter of 2019, my 100,000. Fourth quarter of 2020, my sales were 75,000. So we had a $25,000 decrease, 25%, and I would qualify.
So, but I can't take the fourth quarter back to this and compare it to the second quarter.
No, it has to be fourth quarter to fourth quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Good clarification. Thank you. Now you mentioned something about round one. So that's something here. They actually reopened up round one, for this. So you're saying that if in order to get round two money, you're going to have to go back and apply for round one and go through the hoops that had to be, qualifications, which were, the qualifications weren't much with round one.
Correct. Yeah. And every bank is going to have a different process. So check with your bank as to how, what their process for, looking at round one is. Okay. They'll be able to provide you with the forms for that.
All right. So now I go through this, I qualify. Right now, the big question. How much can I get?
Yeah, that's the big question everyone wants to know. So it's very similar to the first round. In general, it's 2.5 times your 2019 average monthly payroll, or your 2.5 times your average monthly payroll over the last 12 consecutive months from the date of your application.
Okay.
There's also a third option. If you're a seasonal employer, you can use the 12-month period between February 15th, 2019 and February 15th, 2020.
Okay.
And for restaurants and businesses and food service and accommodation, you guys get a little extra. It's 3.5 times your average monthly payroll.
Okay. So it seems like Congress is really trying. I mean, first round was just, hey, just about anybody could qualify. Okay, small business now. Hey, just FYI, in my opinion, 500 employees, 300 employees, that doesn't go to small or mid-sized businesses, but maybe that's just me. But this round, they're really trying to target, specific businesses, industries, or whatever that were really hit hard. That's what I'm seeing here. So now, all right, so we qualify. We calculated how much we can get. What kind of timing do we have to be concerned about here?
Yeah, so it's, again, very similar to the first round in some of these aspects. You'll have until you have until March 31st to apply, or until the money runs application
Okay.
in as soon as you can.
Okay.
And once you apply and you receive your funds, from that point you have between 8 to 24 weeks um, to um, to to accumulate qualifying expenses, I guess.
Okay.
The first round, they initially started with an 8-week period, and they extended that to a 24-week period. So for round 2 here, they're saying, hey, as soon as you have the qualifying expenses, whether it's, if it's at 8 weeks, that's great. If it takes you 24 weeks to get the qualifying expenses,
Okay.
you can do that too. So anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks.
Okay.
Um,
And I guess also, I guess my understanding is worst case scenario that if you do not, if you don't have expenditures that qualify, what it turns into a 1% loan over 5 years.
yeah,
So
the repayment, yeah, it's a very nice deal either way.
Mhm. What about some of the qualified expenses? I mean, there's always
Sure,
been
sure.
some good questions about that.
So again, very similar to the first round. 60% of the loan, at least 60% must be used for payroll expense. And then there's also, same as the first round, the qualifying mortgage interest or rent payments. Those are covered expenses,
Okay.
and utilities. So that's the same as the first round. But
Yeah.
they've also added on certain operating costs, certain property damage, supplier costs, and PPE. Protective gear for your workers. That's also
Personal
a qualifying,
protection. Yep.
yep, qualifying expense.
Now, some of those definitions, if I'd ask you, give me some examples, I think we're just going to say we're waiting for more clarification as far as what's going to qualify. We're still waiting for that, but that we have time down the road. Now, you did mention that that we have until March 31st in order to get our application in. Have you heard anything from the banks as far as where they're at with certain things? And I know it's certain banks are here and certain banks are over here, and there's different levels, but what are you hearing as far as the timing of when they can apply and when they can expect their money?
Yeah, so again, it just depends on the bank. Some banks still don't have a forgiveness process for the first round. So you might, if you're feeling frustrated, maybe check out other banks in your area. But most banks, you should be opening this week to apply. Some banks, for example, Mid-Penn in our area, they had a pre-application open, prior to this. But the actual application, when the SBA is accepting the documents from the bank, that will be happening this week. I believe maybe was it today or yesterday?
I think it is today because yesterday was a banking holiday. So I think my understanding is that SBA has opened up for banking now. I think Friday was for small banks, again, whatever that means. But then I think today is for the rank and file. Everybody can upload.
Yeah.
And as far as what I've heard, I think the SBA is going to be better prepared to handle this than the first time, and I think you can expect your money fairly quickly to come back on that. So yeah, so it's the same process there. Now I think there's some other provisions that came out, in this act that I think are, I'm not going to steal your thunder on this. I was very excited to hear about certain provisions here, and I'm sure businesses out there excited there. So I'll let you take credit for informing everybody of this great news.
Sure. But anytime you can get extra money for free, it's great. So the last act that came out here was they finalized, or they confirmed that PPP forgiveness is not taxable at the federal level. It may still be taxable at the state level, depending on your state, but it's not taxable to the federal. So that's great news for a lot of people. Also, previously, the EIDL grant money, which was up to a $10,000 grant,
Yeah.
would have reduced your PPP forgiveness if you had received both.
Okay.
But now that's no longer true. And if you had paid that back, I believe the banks are going to be reissuing it to you.
Okay.
So the EIDL grant money is in addition to your PPP forgiveness.
So if you did go through the process there, you're going to have to contact your bank to see what you have to do to get that grant money back. Because
Correct.
yeah, okay. Also with this, I think just I have not seen this application yet. I don't know if you've seen it, but SBA is supposed to be releasing a what I'm calling a check the box application for loans less than $150,000 that
Oh
you don't
yeah,
have to go
that's
through.
great news. So
Yeah,
there's less less forms to fill out. You still should prepare all the documentation and keep that for your records. So proof of your payroll, proof of all your covered expenses. Keep that for yourself. But as far as the form that you hand into the bank,
yeah,
they have a new form that's just to sign off. You might have to put in your payroll costs, but it's very simple.
yeah.
One
And
page.
I think it's key to point out also that the SBA has 6 years to come back to you and request this information. So even if you don't have to remit it up front, I agree with you. I think it's very important to accumulate that data because I'm sure if the SBA comes knocking on your door 5 years from now and you don't have it, going back and reconstructing that could be very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, all right. All right. Well, thanks, Jake. And I think now we're going to move on to this employee retention credit, which there's been some changes on that. It's nothing new, but Ludmila, maybe just talk a little bit about that and what some of the eligibility, hoops that you have to jump through that, and what that this whole what is it? What is this?
Well, it's a great credit for the employers who intend to keep their employees on the payroll. It's a
Okay.
fully refundable credit that the employer can claim on their 941 return, the quarterly employer federal tax return. The qualified employees are any employees that are involved in the trade of business and some tax exempt organization. They can, the wages that are qualified are the wages that are subject to the Social Security tax
Okay.
and some healthcare expenses, but they must be the pre-tax healthcare expenses.
Okay. Now,
Anna,
you mentioned about covered employees. What about it's my understanding that there's restrictions for owners of business and family members.
yes, unfortunately, the owners of the business and the family members are not qualified, but they can use any amounts of the wages that they pay to their employees to qualify for this credit.
Okay. Well, so what's happening? Okay, so you're eligible here. How's it look? I think there's been some change. I mean, this came out in part of the CARES Act, but now it was modified here in part of this the CAA with different criteria here. So maybe could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, the biggest change is that now the employers who receive the PPP loan can qualify for the credit.
Right. So
They
before
can,
if they got PPP money, they couldn't do this.
yep, nope.
Okay, good. So that's a big change.
That's a really big change. So they will have to go back and amend that quarterly returns
Okay.
for the quarter that they qualify, but they have the options. And the other biggest change is that the credit was extended because originally the credit ended December 31st. Now they extend it for the next 2 quarters. So the credit is available for the employers until June 30th, 2021.
Okay, so the end of the second quarter. Now, is there any type of sales requirement or what hoops do you have to jump through as far as how your business performs in order to be eligible to participate in this program?
So there are 2 requirements. The first one is the business needed to be fully or partially shut down due to government order related to COVID-19. The second requirement, the gross receipts needed to decline. Now, with this requirement, there were changes. So for the employers who want to claim the credit in 2020, the decline needs to be 50% of the gross wages.
Okay.
For 2021, there is a bigger news, only 20% decline.
Okay. Now, but you're saying that due to government regulations, that if my business was forced to close, then I could be eligible even if I don't meet these percentage requirements.
Exactly. You need to satisfy one or the other. You don't need to satisfy both.
Okay. Oh, good. All right. So yeah. Okay. So again, jump through these hoops. I think I qualify, but what periods are covered here? What area? What timing?
So you have to starting in the second quarter in 2020, but the second quarter in 2020 has the options to retroactively claim it from March 13, 2020 until the end of the first quarter of 2020. So you pretty much have the options to qualify for the credit from March 13, 2020 until June 30th.
Okay, so it goes up, it just covers the first and second quarters of 21 then.
Yep,
Okay.
correct. As
All
of
right,
right
so now, so I got all these, I'm jumping through all these hoops. So what's the maximum, how's the credit work? What's the maximum credit that I could expect to be eligible for?
So for 2020, the maximum amount is 50% of the qualified wages. For 2021, there was an increase is 70% of the qualified wages.
Okay, and the qualified wages are?
It's the part of the wages that are subject of the Social Security tax and health insurance that it's before tax. Plus for 2021, there was another change. You can include the bonuses and any raises to the wages, which is also a new thing. You couldn't claim it on 2020.
But there's a maximum amount that I can claim.
Yes, this is also different for the employers. 2020, the maximum amount is 10,000 per quarter. The 2020, 10,000 for a year. I'm sorry for that. For 2021, it's the 10,000 per quarter. And
that's per employee.
Yes, that's per employer.
So in 20, if I qualify, since they've now, okay, first of all, before I got my PPP money, so I couldn't qualify, but now that's gone. So if I qualify in 2020, I could be eligible up to a $5,000 credit per employee. I mean, depending on the wages, et cetera. And in 21 for the first 2 quarters, that's up to $7,000.
Yes,
per,
so
per
14
per
for 2 quarters.
Okay, so so if you qualify, there could be quite a benefit here. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Great incentive to keep the employees.
Yeah. So we got this. What's the mechanics? How do I do? What do I need to do to get this credit?
Well, you have 2 options how to get it. You either claim it for the 2021 on your quarterly returns, or if you need the money earlier due to the cash flow, you can file a form that will allow you to get an advance on the credit. And then you have to reconcile on the quarterly tax return.
Okay.
For 2020,
but if I go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For 2020, you will have to amend your quarterly tax return.
Okay, okay. So you have to amend it. Now, again, is it something that? So what happens if I go through these calculations here, and the second quarter my sales are down 60%, third quarter my sales are only down 25%, and I'm talking about 2020. Okay, and then the fourth quarter I really went down. They're down 75%.
Yes, so you need to look at each quarter individually, and you can get the credit only for the quarter like 2020 that your gross receipts were down 50%.
Okay, so it's quarter by quarter, and it has to be reflected on that return. Or if I want advance, I file this form 7200.
Yes, and you need to compare quarter like 2020. You are comparing the same quarter to 2019. In 2021, you are still comparing to 2019. That's also great new provision in the bill.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Jake, do you have anything more to add that we didn't cover?
No, this is lots of good stuff, and just advise people to get on it and then stay on top of the, document things carefully. And
with the PPP, we don't know how fast this money is going to go. So your advice is to get it in as soon as you can.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Ludmila, anything to add on the ERC?
I would just advise the employers, if they didn't claim it in 2020 because they got a PPP loan, to go back and look at a quarter, because you might be losing the possible $5,000 per employee. Okay.
All right. Good. So hopefully this video has helped shed some light on some of these provisions. Hopefully it didn't confuse you any more than you were before you listened to this or watched this. But just want to stress that we're here to help. It seems like this whole time frame here, starting with this whole pandemic, we're helping clients, helping businesses navigate these uncharted waters. I think is a terminology I like to say. So we're here to help. So reach out to us. You can reach us by phone at 717-735-0834. Or you can email us at info@landiscpa.com. Again, that's 717-735-0834 or info@landiscpa.com. So we're going to wrap things up. Jake, Ludmila, I thank you. And again, we're here to help you guys. So have a great day and stay safe.